Thank you. Good morning, all. I'd like to start today talking about the investment policy, which is in your packet. We're going to be requesting, when Fred goes through the resolutions, we'll be requesting your approval. And so I just wanted to give you a little more background into the Finance Committee has talked about this before. I guess I want to begin by saying there are no fundamental changes from the policy that's in place, the investment policy in place now. Our first priority, as always, remains protection of principal and then liquidity for the agency. We have updated the policy to reflect best practices in the industry and to be consistent with state law. So I want to highlight a few areas that are different from the investment policy that you've seen in the past. The first is that we've expanded the allowable investments to include a new class of FDIC guaranteed investments that weren't in existence before. These were created last year during the financial crisis when the government provided more guarantees for corporate debt. We've also updated and expanded the section on ethics and on custody and safekeeping. And most importantly, from my perspective, we've added a new category, or way to categorize our fund as unrestricted, internally restricted, and externally restricted. And in your report, you'll see a new page to the investment report that shows this categorization, and that's in addition to the reports that you've been provided in the past. I know Mr. Lairback was looking at that. You might have some questions about it. What this shows, if you look at that report, is that most of our investments are defined as externally restricted, meaning that we're investing the funds in a manner required either by our bond documents or our leases or grants. And these funds are not available for the general operating needs of the agency. So, for example, if you look at the page, you'll see that there's approximately $40 million invested as restricted, called restricted for debt service. And these are funds that are put away to be used to pay our debt service in the next 6 months. There's also, you'll see about $51 million, which is from the state lottery proceeds grant funds for the Milwaukee line. Again, those are restricted and can only be used for that project. And then if you see at the top of that page, the unrestricted funds are about $38 million, and those are the funds that we can use that are available to us for agency operations. This new page that's in the report also shows the credit quality. Every month I report on the credit quality, but now we're actually listing that on the right side of that page. And you'll see that virtually all of our investments are AAA, meaning they're treasuries or government agency securities. The Oregon Short-Term Fund is in the AA category. That's the fund managed by the state treasurer. And then there are some temporary investments at Wells, and those are, the Wells is rated AA, but because those funds are invested under Oregon law, and they are subject to the Public Funds Collateralization Program, so as public funds, the bank has to set aside collateral for those funds. So this policy was reviewed and approved by the Finance Committee in October. And then we went to the Oregon Short-Term Fund Board, who reviews all public funds and the investment policies of those the public entities. And I believe you received a letter from the Short-Term Fund Board chair reflecting that that review had occurred. So today we will be requesting your approval and just pointing out that ultimately the board does have ultimate responsibility for the investments, and Oregon law requires public boards to do an annual review and policy adoption. So if there are any questions about that, I can answer them now or during the resolution.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, as I mentioned to you, I just noticed that I just raised the question, were we overly invested in Wells
our bond programs, but those funds are actually invested in treasuries, and so there's no risk there. The one fund where the funds are at Wells is subject to public collateralization, so I'm comfortable that we are protected there.
Yeah, because my concern was will we over our policy, not being with 5 or 10% of the overall money in one location.
We are within policy.
Yeah, thank you very much. One other one I had, Mr. Chair, if I could, is on the operating statement.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to get to that, but go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead. You may answer the question.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I wanted to spend,
I thought you...
if I can, I'll be sure to ask. I wanted to spend a little time on the investment policy. Okay, let me turn now to other questions.